For God, for country, for truth, for justice, for the Republic. You're listening to the Powder Monkey Podcast on PirateInfoWars.com.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Powder Monkey Podcast. Today, I have hit the bigs time because my guest today needs no introduction. He is a patriot, an info warrior, a Purple Heart recipient 2 times over. He's put his money where his mouth is many times. And so it's one of my bucket lists. So, Joe, I really want to thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, anytime. I love doing shows. It's cool to be able to talk to people, especially, when you find people who are like-minded and, you can bounce ideas and things off. And, sometimes someone can say something that can spark something in your head that you never thought of. So it's fun to be able to have conversations like this.
I want to start first. There's something I need to do. First, I need to start. I'm sure you heard last week, Owen Schroyer broke it on the War Room, but Corona can be spread through digital transactions now. So, digital interactions. I'm sorry to inform you, but we've all got the Corona right now. But I'm going to fix that because the state of New York can't shut this down. We're going to take this and we're going to cover the Corona right up.
There you go.
And by the time this episode's over, my Corona will be gone, brother. See, you can remove the Corona at InfoWars.com with that little koozie there. But okay, let's get on with it. So, that didn't turn out as funny as I thought it would be, but it was hilarious in my mind. So anyway, so I want to start at the beginning. The first time I saw you, you come on InfoWars. You were interviewed by Alex, and it was regarding Michael Hastings.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start at the beginning. We're what, a little over 2 weeks from an anniversary, and so in going through some of the things out there, even the attack pieces, I think it's kind of funny because there are no more InfoWars videos and their links. There are no more there's nothing out there. The left has eaten itself. It's even their articles are bare bones. Mm-hmm. But today, just I want to just maybe have you rehash, looking this far back, maybe just how you feel, what your critique is of where we are, and Brennan, leaked documents, witch hunts, all that, man. Where are you on that?
Well, it started off with, befriending a really great guy, Michael Hasting, and him seeing something in me that I didn't know I had. I thought I was going to be career military and stay in until I was so old that I had to just be kicked out. Like they had to put me on a forklift or something and force me off the base. Because I liked the military life. I didn't have a father who was around a lot. So for me, it was kind of nice to have, strong male leadership around. And I've always been kind of like a guy's guy. So I like to have that camaraderie. I like to have other men around me who strive for greatness and who want to push the limits of things. And I found that in the Army. But then when I met Michael, I saw that there was another way to do that. And it wasn't just the physical nature of, being a man and, doing things, but it was also a way of using your mind and researching and exposing corruption and being a man in that way. And I saw that as a pretty cool thing, that this guy, the skinny little dude, had the ability to take on 4-star generals and presidents and really move and make a lot of fucking changes in government. And he's just a little guy with a pen and a camera, So to me, that spoke volumes that, the pen was mightier than the sword, and that this guy was truly an amazing human being. So him and I became really good friends over time. And he told me, he goes, Joe, he goes, if you ever get out of the military one day, he goes, I'd love to see you doing something on camera. If you get out, or if something happens and you have to get out and need work, hit me up. So long story short, I got out, hit him up. And this is when I was just getting back from Afghanistan. Michael was deployed there with me as well. He was with my unit. This was probably like the summer of 2008, 9. We come back. So around 2009, I've now PCS from Fort Bragg to El Paso, Texas, to Fort Bliss, to the Biggs Army Airfield, which is kind of, weird.
Ironic.
Yeah. So I get there, and Michael's giving me a call. He goes, "You about to get out?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They said I've got a little bit left. I got hurt, and they're going to probably medically retire me. I don't know what I'm going to do. He goes, "Well, I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to do stuff with me." So he set me up for some interviews and stuff like that. But then he was also telling me the things that he was working on. And he was at the time doing a piece on Brennan, and that he had just come out with a story called The Runaway General, I believe was the name of the title in Rolling Stone. And that's the one that got General Stanley McChrystal, at the end of the day, fired, kicked out of his position because when I left Afghanistan, he was supposed to come home a week or two later. Then that volcano in Iceland happened. It shut down all air traffic from Europe to the U.S. And he got diverted and had to fly into France, I believe it was, with McChrystal and follows a team around. And they just got fucking shit-faced hammered drunk all the time. And we're just like spilling the beans on everything. And Michael's like, "Hey, I'm still here, right?" Right. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't give a shit. You write down whatever the fuck." So he wrote down a piece, and he, said that Obama was essentially a moron and shit like that, and put that in there. And, next thing you know, he's calling me, and he's like, "Man, I'm scared." He's like, "They're going to fire this guy from this thing I wrote." He's like, "I'm getting threats." And, to me, it was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, you wrote this shit, and this fucking loser is going to lose his job over it. And McChrystal wasn't the greatest. McChrystal was the kind of guy that when he came in and took over the commanding forces of NATO, when we're in Afghanistan, when Obama took over, they basically made our ability to defend ourselves very difficult. We couldn't be shot at. I mean, if we were shot at, we couldn't return fire. A lot of just crazy shit. The rules of engagement drastically changed. Mm-hmm. And it made it almost entirely difficult to complete missions and get shit done, to come home alive, essentially. I mean, it was very dangerous for a while. So when he left and he was fired, there was a definitely a celebration amongst the military ranks who were deployed, I'll say the least. But Michael did create a lot of enemies. What a lot of people don't understand is when a general rises up in the ranks, he has an entourage who follows him, captains and first sergeants and all this shit that, really he has a team that travels with him. And as he rises up, those guys, he brings them with him. So when he got fired, a whole lot of other people got fired. Yeah. And it tarnished their service, so to say. It made their paperwork and, everything they've accomplished, it tainted it. So he created a lot of enemies. And I just remember him calling me and telling me how scared he was, and that he'd been working on a lot of stuff, and he was going to he was just kind of overwhelmed by everything. And I remember getting an email from him, and it would have been in a couple weeks. He died on the 18th, so on the 16th or 17th I got the email. I think it was the 17th, earlier that day. And then that night, early in the morning, is when I got the call and saying that he had died. And that really lit a fire under my ass that this guy was doing the right thing. He didn't really play partisan politics. He wasn't really left or right. He was more liberal. I mean, I knew that just from talking to him, but he was still open-minded enough to listen to all sides. He wasn't so polarized as it is now with a lot of these journalists where they're stuck in one mindset. They're stuck defending Obama to the death or whatever like that. And that's why I get agitated by people too on the right too, that they so blindly follow Trump. I go, look, this is a guy who's fallible. He can make mistakes. He can screw up. He can turn. He can do things. And if we don't call him out on that stuff, we're no better than the left on the extreme left that's doing nothing but pushing for a guy like Biden, who's a complete and total moron. We've got to be able to call out our own. And that's one of the things I really learned from him when I met him, is to not be so, to not blindly follow individuals so much, to seek the truth and then to push for that. And if the person that you elected doesn't do that, you hold their feet to the fire and you make sure that you're heard, and that we as a nation voice this to him so he listens. We know that our president now pays attention to social media and listens to a lot of his people say. So when a lot of the people, if he fucks up and they don't say anything, he thinks he's still doing the right thing. So that's why it's important. It's an imperative that we are voicing and keeping people on the right path.
You said in 2019, late in 2019, in an interview with Alex and Owen, a segment that you did, you said that 2020 is going to be a test for us. And later on, you went on to say that this is the kind of stuff you see in movies or read in books. And, I call this resist movement in an old episode, World War T. And now it's kind of ironic that you're seeing, you're hearing that mainstream Mockingbird media is, using World War Z clips, to kind of fill in what's going on in the nation right now. I don't know. It's just I think that you were so much on target when you said that.
Well, I don't think that I'm prophetic in any way, and I don't think Alex is prophetic in any way.
No, I think you could just see the writing on the wall.
Yeah. It's just that if you take the time to really read and look at the path and look at the direction of travel of what's happening with the news, with politics, with society, you can kind of make a prediction down the road a little bit of where you're going to see things in a couple years. And if you really pay attention to everything, it's not a difficult thing, I don't think. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to see that we were going to come to a point like this. And here we are. What is it? It's June. Yeah. We're not even halfway through 2020, and it's already been the worst year.
Oh, my God.
It's been the most insane time of anyone's life right now, I think. I think this is
when you made that statement, did you expect this intensity, I guess is what I'm getting at? Did you see, cities burning at this point?
After Ferguson, yeah. After what I saw in Ferguson, I saw that was only the iceberg, and that things will get bigger. Okay. And things will get crazier, because we only scratched the surface. That lasted a few months. That was an entire month of August. Then September, there was a lull. But then in October, I believe it was, and then into November, because Jakari and I stayed down there for like 3 months. Mm-hmm. Ferguson went from the fall and into we're freezing cold and in snow. It took a while, but as soon as that no indictment was done, there was a few riots that popped off. It got kind of bad for a few days, but then it just died off. Right. And the news began to pick up and other shit happened, and we were into elections and all that stuff, and no one cared anymore. But I knew that something else would happen that would just dominate. And when you look at how much hate and disdain and just disgust they have for this president and for people on the right in general, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, things like that, that they were going to use something like that again to come after us. And I mean, just a few months ago, the government was buying up all this body armor, and I'm like, man, this is kind of weird. Yeah. And now we see why. We see truckloads of bricks being dropped off at people's places in cities like Modesto, California, where this is a primarily kind of like middle-class white area. And they wake up one morning, I'm seeing the footage, and there's just bricks dropped out. And the next thing you know, people show up to that night and start rioting. Like, why?
No, that's Acme Brick Company. Acme Brick Company. Is that what you're talking about with what sort of Millie released? And
I don't know. I haven't seen, but I'm just going by from what I've seen. I mean, I know that some of these companies are backed by Warren Buffett and the
Bill Gates,
supreme dickhead George
yeah.
Soros.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that these guys have done that. And then when you see, obviously, in what was it, January 9th, 2017, Dr. Fauci said that in Trump's administration that he would face a very bad pandemic. That would happen. So there's kind of been this, I guess they thought their original attempt to overthrow the election in a sense, or to delegitimize the 2016 presidential nomination, that the Trump Russia thing would work. Well, then when that failed, it went on to the Omarosa tapes, and then it went on to all this other stuff. And then we completely took our focus off the president, and we went to Brett Kavanaugh, and we've seen them attack. But what I've really noticed the most, and what's really the most disappointing to me, where we're at right now, is the right is almost complicit in all this because they do nothing. Look at how the left mobilizes. Look at how the left, even if they take away the Soros money and all that shit, these people still show up in droves to stand up for what they believe in. We have so many people on the right, keyboard warriors, who will sit there and essentially take it up the butt. They, when and to me, it was a really big red flag when the government's going, or local, state, and governments and stuff like that were shutting down churches. Right. I'm like, but it's okay to wait in line to go, to throw our money at Amazon, or to go to Walmart, or go to Sam's Club or Costco or Lowe's. That's okay.
The liquor store, that's cool.
Yeah, you can go to the liquor store, but you can't go worship God. You can't go into a place like that. The Muslim churches are, whatever, the fucking, those places, the mosques, those places were left unscathed, untouched. Those people were allowed to continue because, the left has embraced Islam so much that they hold that higher than the country that was founded on Christianity. So, we've seen God be taken completely out of everything. And then what have we seen fill that place? Evil.
That's what I've always said is they the first thing they have to do is attack your God. They have to break you spiritually to mull over you the rest of the way. Once you're broken spiritually, nothing else, everything else is just semantics. But you mentioned, I think Alex had a guy named Tom Especial on today. And he mentioned something about Virginia, and he was right. They were in a state of emergency. They had, and I said it on the Leo Zagami show, but never before have I seen so many Democrats come together for borders and strong protection at these borders. But by God, they had it around the Capitol that day. And how long did it take them to act on the the protesters? It's complete hypocrisy, and you can see
they attack me and the Proud Boys all the time when we go out. When I did my big event in Portland, it was one of the largest right-wing protests in American history. I didn't know this; it was in the Guinness Book of Records now, from what I was told. So it was huge. And what were we labeled? Domestic terrorists. I had the FBI up my ass all the time. They were nice, but I don't trust them as far as I could throw them. Right. Those guys constantly had a tell on me for the longest time. Like I was going to go out and commit something. I was simply doing what I knew Antifa was. I was exposing them for the rabid animals they are. And by making the posts that I did, the videos I did to amp them up, I knew I was going to get a reaction. My entire plan, and when we planned this rally, was to make videos so inflammatory that they would be so mad, the mere sight of me, the mere essence of my just being in that city, they would fucking act out and do something crazy. And they did. They destroyed their own city. And it showed them.
Let me ask you something, man. And you have spoken on Jade Helm, ad nauseum. But why with all the ops that we've ran, if we have mastered the human domain, why don't we see mobilization? Everybody's got the box, man, in their pocket. Where everybody's tracked. It doesn't matter. So why aren't they going out and surgically taking these people down?
Because it's a trick to fool you. This is a psyop. They want, just like just like what the education system does with children, just like with videos that children watch. That's why, if you're a parent and you have kids, you need to watch at least 5 minutes into a video before you leave your child alone. Say Peppa Pig, for instance. Peppa Pig is a show, a British cartoon thing about a pig.
Yep.
My daughter loves it. Well, in that show, almost every episode, they make the father and mother to be idiots. They're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be trusted. They get you lost all the time. And this is indoctrinating children. And then when the children are finally separated from their parents and then brought into the education system, what we're seeing is, and my mom told me this. My mom works at the highest levels of education. She works in universities and all that. She's run universities. She's been president and vice president of universities, and now she's a VP at another big college in Florida. And she says her friends who work in the education system with small children, they are told, our job is to pull the kids away from the parents, to break down what the children believe about parents to be the smart ones, the protectors, the ones that are going to
still Marxists.
To put them down the right path. Mm-hmm. It's to think that, hey, no, your parents are dumb and we are God. The government and education system is God, and we have the right things, not your parents. Your parents don't know what they're talking about. They're idiots. Right. So you have these young people right now who don't want to listen to their parents because they think that all adults are stupid. We're boomers. We're idiots. We don't know anything. We fucked everything up, and it's their turn to come in and fix it all. And what you have right now is, people are seeing that the military right now is inept, and it's another mind trick. Everyone's sitting around going, well, why don't we just call in the military if we've got all this stuff? It's to fool you into thinking that they're stupid, inept people, to create an illusion that you can stand up and run out in the streets. And then eventually, at a point, they're going to put their foot down and you're going to have a boot on your fucking head.
Yeah, right. I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, I know people. I'm not for a police state. I don't think any true American is for for calling in and having the military actually domestically crack skulls. But when they're shooting people, it's not protest, it's siege at that point. The rules of engagement are different, and I mean they've destroyed.
Here's
America.
My thing. There's 24 hours in a day. All right, 12 of those hours have daylight. Right. You can be heard and get your point across in the daytime. The curfew is used. The curfew is not a bad thing. I know a lot of people say that's a police state thing. No, it's a time, and it's been used for years. Mm-hmm. What the curfew does is it separates the people who are out to do good from the ones who are going to do bad at nighttime. So all these people who are out there peacefully protesting, who have a reason to be upset, yes, what that cop did was wrong. If you see the video and the other cops are being arrested today, that was wrong. That guy, regardless of his past or anything like that, someone shouldn't be dying right there. You're not judge, trial. You're not the jury. You're not the hangman. That's not your job. Your job is to quell the situation and then bring that person in. So we in the justice system should take it and do the right thing.
Right.
But the justice system, as we know, is pretty intensely far gone as well. But let's just stick with this part, though. So that's their job, not to kill or anything like that. So there are plenty of reasons to peacefully protest. Now, what the BLM has is they have an insurgency form that's infiltrated, and they come in and incite shit. And then you have Antifa, which is a domestic terrorist organization. Absolutely. Thank God their president's finally said something like that. That's what we've been working on for years. Myself and a large group of the Proud Boys is trying to get these guys shown for that. But what you can do is you take your time during the day and you get your message across, and you do it while you can be seen. Just like Martin Luther King said, anything in the cover of darkness is wrong. Everything that people try to do it in the daylight. So you have the curfew, then you go home. Tomorrow you get back up. It's a brand new day. You get back out on the streets, talk, engage with the media, have a conversation, talk to other people who don't look like you, speak to the police, and let them see the emotional human side of you. But at nighttime when that curfew comes on, everybody that's out there, you're out there for the wrong fucking reasons. And if you're out there for the wrong reasons after that time, it's time for us to come in there and clean it up. That's not a police state. If those areas are that far gone, it's time that we stand in. And it's the government's job to protect people and their businesses and things like that. And we're seeing people's businesses that they work their entire lives to get money, to leave to their family as a legacy, gone forever. And that's just wrong. We should not sit back and allow that kind of shit to happen. Meanwhile, Amazon thrives, All these other big corporations thrive, and they don't have to worry about anything. They're going to get bailed out. They get money all the time. The government throws them all this shit all the time. But it's the small mom and pops that are losing everything. So when that happens, I don't see a problem with it. People should know clearly, look, you have your message, do it during this time. But after that, if you're out there, you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution anymore. You're not here for George Floyd. You're out here for a fucking 72-inch flat screen TV, and you're a selfish son of a bitch, and your ass should go to jail.
Let me ask you this. You said something about the spirits of the people in the field out there. You said that the only thing they have in abundance is anger. And with that, that reminds me, the way that they approach things, and it's so just insane. It's an Orwellian experience to feel. It's surreal when you're out there and you see these people actually in person. But it kind of reminds me of the make love, not war, or we'll kill you philosophy. They want their way, and now it's coming out. A lot of these people are actors. They have theater in their backgrounds, and it's amazing. I think over the next few weeks.
But that's still that's one of the things that I don't quite. I'm not
even
really,
in the daytime though. That's the thing. They want to sow hate.
I've done movies and TV shows. Does that mean that I'm an asset now and that look, as a kid, a lot of us grow up watching movies and want to do stuff like that. And a lot of towns now, like in Charlotte where I lived, it's like the new LA. I've done Homeland. I used to do the Homeland show. I did Banshee. I've worked on Transformers stuff when they were doing airborne ops and shit like that. A lot of people wanted to be a part of films because films are iconic things that are part of our American culture. So I think a lot of people grow up with a lot of film, in their background. So when I see people like, man, I saw him on that means it must be fake. To me, that's reaching a little bit. Now, if you start to see these people all the time and they're always like a part of something, they just always happen to be there. Well, you look at the Craigslist ads too, and there's people out there.
And those are the people, the people that are in the colleges, and I guess what Alex likes to call the goblins, if you know what I'm saying. They're all just the pasty white, they have some type of drama in their background. They bring the drama with them, but there a lot of them are associated with the colleges. Morgantown, 5,000 people, from what my son was telling me yesterday. I mean, thank God it didn't get crazy, but the thing is that I see those people. I've had those people in a white neighborhood yelling healthcare is a human right, not just for the rich and white, when all those people around were coal miners, and they had lost their jobs and their health care, and they were in poverty and squalor, and that sows the hate. And when you track these people back, they're all Soros funded, and again, they a lot of them have been through the Chicago movements and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're all Alinsky babies.
Now they're absolutely, and they're field organizers now. They
grew up reading Rules for Radicals and things like that. I mean, if you read the Rules for Radicals, I mean, you can see it happening everywhere. You also have to read Noam Chomsky's Media Control. It's another good book. It's really small, but you can read it in about a day. But it talks about how they do that, manipulate everybody. I mean, I'm reading a book right now called Dark Psychology, and how to understand the power of manipulation and things like that, and how people use dark forces to brainwash you and to keep you scared.
Well, that's
what we've seen with the
number one tool of the Illuminati. As far as I understand it, they're master psychologists. They understand the deep inner workings of the psyche. And
you see what's happening with the pandemic. What did we learn from the pandemic? Is that the masses will shut the hell up and sit down in their house and do what they're told. And this is what we've been seeing happening for a long time. What is that stuff that David Knight always talked about? God, I can't remember what it's called. Where you live in the small places, the small quarters, and you sit there.
Gulag, the ghettos, the digital ghetto.
I can't remember the name of it. It was like a government name for something that they were trying to do. Because they're forcing everybody inside. And what do they do when they...
digital.
What happens when you're inside? You're forced to sit there and watch the TV, and then they sit there and indoctrinate you. Like, if you even look at the ads on your phone, It's like, you try to buy something, like toilet paper or whatever. It's like, but you got to watch this 30-second ad on this new show on Amazon about two dudes who, fell in love and they're going to get married. It's all these small little things that are happening that they're pushing into your idea, into your heads, like, if you don't like this, you're homophobic, and then like click to buy your toilet paper for $50 for, a fucking, two of them. It's all this stuff that they're doing to screw with people's heads and to make you feel guilty, to make you feel bad if you don't accept all these new crazy things that are out there, like, the lady who thinks she's black, Rachel Dolezal, or the dude who thinks he's, a Filipino truck driver thing. And it's insanity that we live in. And it's to them, it's like, for me, there's like a room full of guys and they're sitting back just laughing, like, what's the dumbest thing we can push today? And have people go out and become violent and fight for no reason.
When let me ask you this. I don't know if you've ever been asked this, but do you recall the day, the moment where your reality went from, it's little pink houses for you and me, ain't that America, to there's a dark underbelly.
First
running
week in
shit.
Iraq. First week in Iraq. I was it was 2004. We went in at the end of 2003, but it was like it was like right at 2004. I remember we stopped on a convoy at this bazaar. A bazaar is like a jockey lot area, like a spot where there's a bunch of stores up and down the road, and you can go and buy DVDs and shit like that. And the locals there will sell stuff to soldiers, And I thought I was buying this Jean-Claude Van Damme film, and it was in fact Loose Change. Loose Change is a documentary on 9/11. And I remember going, what the hell is this? I want to watch Jean-Claude Van Damme. Fuck it, I'll watch it, whatever. And I remember watching it, and by the time the damn movie was over, I was filled with rage and anger. I was like, fuck, man, why am I here? I've been lied to. This thing that I love, this country, the red, white, and blue, right. Justice and liberty for all. And, we're supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. It's all a fucking lie, and it makes you think, like, really, are we the greatest country in the world, or are we just brainwashed to think that? And we think that, I don't know, it took me down a rabbit hole, and I started really struggling with my existence in the military. But then you slip back into, hey, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm here now, and It's me and my guys getting home. So I tried to push that shit out of my head for a while. The day I got out, though, when I called Michael, him and I would sit down and have these conversations. And he's like, you're really starting to see what's going on. He goes, like, it's bad on all sides. He's like, left, right, it doesn't matter. It's all bullshit. He goes, they just want complete and total control of you, So that was my moment, and that memory will never leave my head.
I got you. I understand. Talking about the Proud Boys, do you know the name PJ Tobia? Producer, I guess he did a piece on Chris Hill and the 3% security force. And I ran across him because I guess a keyword was InfoWars in a search. And I got to meet Chris, and he did a podcast with me. Then I met him in Richmond. I was up there just trying to chronicle everything that, just from my perspective. But you're a very approachable guy. You don't put shit out there. I've seen some videos where you're clearly trying to do other shit, and people come up to you and they're just trying to put this hour-long piece together. And but then you have these people who are mainstream media. I mean, PBS. Chris told me, he said, they came in and they acted like they were my friend. It was basically, guerrilla journalism. And Chris, I think, was caught blindsided. They were equating white supremacists and the words InfoWars and 3% security force. I guess what I'm getting at, is with this, especially with PBS. I mean, isn't it time that we take a close look at actually who is actually saying, hey, I want these pieces put together. I want this slant. I asked him, I said, man, what? I asked PJ Tobia, I sent him a message on Twitter, and I said, basically, do you, kind of like I just asked you about, the day that, that you realized that shit wasn't what it was? Well, I asked him, does he remember the day that he crossed over and became a member of the Mockingbird Media? And maybe it wasn't the nicest way to introduce myself, but it got the conversation started a little bit. But he doesn't want to talk about it. I'll again invite him on.
There's
if he
people who
is that
toe the line.
invested,
There's people who toe the line. People would call me a celebrity and shit, and I just never understood that whole crap. Like, I don't get it. I don't get off on that. Like, and I'm not trying to be mean, but like Milo, he's a fucking giant narcissist. I mean, does he have good things to say? Does he make great points? Yes. But Milo is about Milo. Milo is about how he's looking in the media and how he is appearing. I want what I'm projecting and talking about to be that. I want the world to clamor over this. Like, this is bad, this is good, watch this. Not me. I don't care about, hey, look at me, I'm Joe Biggs. Ew, that's so cool. No, that's like that. If you get to a point like where that's where you care about, then you shouldn't be in this shit. And it got to a point too when I was there, people were trying to treat me so much like I was this like celebrity like thing. I just couldn't deal with it. I didn't like it because when it gets to that point, I don't know. It's weird. I like where I'm at now with Censor.tv and Gavin, because I don't have, it's me at home doing the stuff on my own from my studio. I don't have the people chirping in my ears. I don't have all this stuff to taint me. Like when I go to DC and I go to Trump International, everybody in their dresses up like in suits, and they all, whimsy around and rub shoulders and like, look at me, I did this, I wrote this, I did this video, I looked at this. Mm-hmm. I sit in a corner by myself and I'll sit there and drink beers because the other people are there, and I just sit there and hang out, and people will come over and talk to me and shit like that. I want what I do to be remembered for exposing something that was good and maybe helped enlighten a human being on something, or have a conversation with someone and they go, you know what, that's a good idea. I never thought about that, like to be remembered for something like that, not to, how many people offered me money to talk shit about Alex when I got out, when I left InfoWars. I had CNN, I had everybody calling me, trying to fucking get me to like unleash dirt and do all this shit. And I was like, you know what? I could do that and I could make a shit ton of money and probably never have to work again. Or I could just, be true to myself and just, take some time off, reflect on life, and really decide if this is something I really want to keep doing or not. Because when you get to a level, people want to give you all this influence and they want to give you all this power and crap. And, I think that's too dangerous for anybody to have. No one's opinion should be held higher than another. I think we should collectively be able to have these conversations. And then with what we come up with, that should be like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
You know what? I think maybe though that it even could be, I don't know how religious you are, but it could be just prosperity. I mean, you've been censored. You've been massively censored. You've lost PayPal. So I guess it was the Streisand effect. The more they strike you down, the more powerful you become in a way. And soak it in, dude. In that respect.
But they've taken everything from me in a sense. Like, I can't make the money that I used to be able to make. I can't provide for myself. I really have to, just a few months ago, I was working at a fish market, getting by, doing things I could, slinging fish. That's not easy work.
Dude,
the fucking fish out here in the ocean are big.
Believe me, man, I understand.
So, I mean, I was out here doing that shit until my knee finally just quit on me, and I just had to have reconstructive surgery. It was an old war wound, and then I re-injured it again in Miami with Rufio, the Proud Boys. It was during the first DNC debates back last summer. Right. My leg just snapped, and then I was out there slinging fish, and it just went. I ended up tearing my meniscus and all that. So, it's given me time to sit back, and I had to take a break for a while. When I was still in Austin, I had to sit back and take a breath like, man, this shit's really getting crazy. Like, what do I want to do? And I missed it, and that's when Gavin's like, look, dude, I'm starting this network, come with me. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you what you can say or what you can't say. He goes, in fact, I'm not even going to look at anything you put up unless I just watch it to watch it. He's like, I'm not going to watch it first, review it, and then you can put it up. He goes, you fucking speak your mind and follow whatever you want to, and then, you put it out. So I'm the one who films it, I edit it, and I put it up without anybody telling me what I can or can't do. I have complete and total control.
That is cool.
InfoWars didn't have that power because Alex likes to have that kind of, he likes to make sure that everything's looking a specific way. And that's not wrong. He runs a more professional network. So it's got to fit that type of dynamic to be able to look that way, because what he's trying to do is, look, I'm a regular guy who was able to create a media empire, and I have the same studio, if not nicer, and I can create content just as good as you guys with 90% less people than you fuckers have.
Right.
You know?
Let me ask you about that, because you went from, I think maybe you did a little bit of, you were in college for a bit, but you went basically from being a soldier to a journalist. Mm-hmm. And you started out even as a citizen journalist, yeah. And you were on a pursuit. You were, so you've kind of evolved over these years. I mean, I guess you grabbed the InfoWars, bull by the horns. You rode the InfoWars tiger. Compare that, compare the military to what you've seen in the streets, to where you are, and to where we are in America. I mean, compare being,
When Alex brought me in, he goes, "What can I contribute?" And he told me, he goes, "I'm hiring you," and he goes, "I know you don't have any experience in this stuff." He goes, he's like, "I just see that you have something in your eye, you have a passion." He goes, what do you want to bring to this? And I said, well, I did a lot of homework. I'd never heard of InfoWars before. And I started watching a lot of their content before I moved down to Austin. And I said, what I notice is you guys have a professional look, but you're lacking reporters on the ground. You're not going out and doing anything. I said, my experience in combat has left me with a void in the fear mode. I don't really get scared. I don't really get nervous with things like that. The more chaotic the situation, in fact, the more calm and composed I begin to feel. Like it's like a wave of calmness that happens when everything's blowing up around me and shit's going crazy. So I really pushed with him to let me get out in the streets, to really get out there in the mix of stuff. When the Ferguson riots happened, that's when I was really able to look, this is what I can do and this is what I can offer. Just give me a chance to do it. And it blew up. We were the first people to do this ever. We were the first to use cell phones and broadcast live through these programs that weren't even made for that. They were used for church services and, school graduations. And we took it to the front line of, breaking news, and we made it huge. We gave people, everyday citizens, the ability, the confidence, and the power to go out and take on the mainstream media establishment. Right. And that's what Jakari and I and Rob Dew eventually came out there, and we really worked on these cool tools to be able to mount cell phones and microphones and make these sticks and battery packs. And we learned that if we called the cell phone company and gave them a little bit of extra money, they'd boost our signal over everyone else's. And I mean, it was trial and error after trial and error, frustrations of, battery packs going out and blowing up and overheating, because we had to learn what could withstand, because none of this stuff had ever been used out elements like this before. Usually people use a battery pack while they're in school and they're charging their laptop or their cell phone inside, like a library, not while it's raining and tear gas is being shot, and there's flashbangs going off and bullets whizzing by your head and blazing fires, and rioters coming up and punching you and trying to grab your shit. I mean, you really learn what kind of equipment out there is strong and can handle it, what can't, so it was really a trial by fire. But when we perfected it and we got it, wow. I mean, look at the shit we could do. I mean, it was amazing. I'm like, the Paris attack happened. I was like, Alex, this is happening right now. I was like, send me a fucking plane now. Let's go. He goes, well, he's like, I don't know. I was like, dude, let's fucking do it. I was like, we've already broken all the stuff here in the U.S. Let's make this global. Let's go to other places and fucking show people that this news is, because what I learned when I got really big there, I would be in an airport. I would have Iraqi families, Swedish families, people from all over the world come up to me in airports, knowing who I am, watching all the shit that we're doing. It only made sense that we would take this to the next level and go around the world and talk about issues. I mean, other than that, they were doing Bilderberg. That was it. And Bilderberg is kind of a niche thing. Not everybody's into it. Not everybody who watches InfoWars. I was never into it, because you're yelling at a bunch of people outside of a building.
That's the dark underbelly there. I think the moment that, for me personally, when you came on, that it went into high speed shit was when you were at the border or somewhere, and they were bringing loads of drugs across, and you went across, you had your crew there, you caught it on film.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the high speed. That's when InfoWars, to me, went high speed, because that was, again, truth to power. And
the thing that really stopped us from going any further, and the thing that stops me now, was funding. When we started getting banned from everywhere, we started losing advertisers. When you lose advertisers, you don't have that same kind of income. It's expensive to fly just me and another guy. You want at least 3 people, but we were trying to learn. Like, I would have to cross train in so many different things. And so with Josh was our camera guy, but then Josh also had to learn how to write other things and to do other stuff and to help and pull security in a sense. Or Jakari would have to cross train on things. Jakari was already in the forefront of cross training. Jakari was, to me, one of the most pure, amazing human beings ever. And it's like, this guy just had a thirst for knowledge, and not just like seeking the truth in a sense, but I mean learning new things and expanding his abilities to be able to do stuff as a human being. So it really pushed us in the office to have people like that around. We would push each other and compete and kind of like, push ourselves to learn more. So to have a team of 2 or 3 guys, that's, $3,000-$4,000, sometimes a plane ticket just to go overseas. With intercontinental, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. So that's $3,000 for 3 guys. Then you got to get a rental car. That's another $500-$600. Then you got to get food. Then when you get there on the ground, depending on what's happening, it could just be pouring down rain. And you only packed certain stuff, or you get there and someone stole a bag or whatever. You've got to buy equipment on the fly. You got to buy rain gear on the fly. Right. So it becomes a very expensive process, and then you're also running from people trying to chase you. Like, we're in the border. We had people fucking coming after us. We had to hide our vehicle. Yeah. We had to pull license plate off our vehicles and hide them and shit, park shit in bushes. Mm-hmm. It's insanely costly to get it done. And that's the one thing that regretfully sucks about the censorship and being deplatformed, is you no longer have the ability to raise that money. If I could bring in $10,000 a month, I guarantee you I'd be the top journalist in the country. World. Yeah. I could do it just by myself. I could go and travel around, but it costs money to do that. And you can only do so much with a limited budget. And that's what sucks, is that people out there that actually want to get the truth out there, and the people out there who actually have good intentions, we're thrown into a corner and told to shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Just shut down, unpersoned, wiped out, memory hold, out the internet. Couple more things, dude. I know we've got about looks like about 15 more minutes. I was going to run you for about an hour, man. If that's cool.
Fine.
If you want to talk longer, that's up to you. I don't have. Okay. With I guess I really want to talk about Roger. But I want to close with that. I want to, maybe, we'll talk about that. I just want to go back because this may pull some other people in, from other niches and things like that. But I would just want to backtrack on something. You said that you did some work on Transformers. I don't know if you can see behind me.
Yeah, I saw that after I said that, and I saw you kind of get excited. I was like, "Holy shit, he's got Transformers everywhere!"
Well, I have my Secret Service letter. I did a behind me. I don't know if you can see, but right in the center. So I have my Secret Service letter. I was honored to do a volunteer driver position in the presidential motorcade, and I really enjoyed that. But I have my MAGA Jazz right there. I don't know if you know the story behind that, but Jazz in the Power of the Primes line had a little Cybertronian glyph that was snuck onto him that in Cybertronian spelled MAGA. And so you have to be a really hardcore, no pussy getting fanboy to know that. But you have to be an even worse one, because it raised so much hell. The backlash from the social justice warriors out there, because Hasbro was promoting hate. It forced Hasbro to issue a statement on it. So I just wanted to give you a little background on that. Did you do the desert jumps, or were you in desert? Did you do what part?
Yeah, it's when we were out there at White Sands or whatever, outside of El Paso, and they had us coming out there to consult and talk about stuff and to make sure that the guys were looking a certain way and acting a certain way. And I've done consulting on a number of films when I was in the Army. They would pull some of us out who were they call high speed guys, that they had their shit together, so they would allow us to do fun stuff. We didn't need to constantly train all the time because we took it amongst ourselves to do it anyways.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I did the U.S. Army sexual assault video. They bring actors into these bases all the time, and they'll sit down and learn from us. They watch our mannerisms. They sit back and study how we talk to each other. That way, they can get that kind of shit. Okay. Yeah, that way that when you watch the movie, you're not like me sometimes. Like with Hurt Locker, I'm screaming, going, "Oh my God, what are they doing right now? I can't take this." Like Hurt Locker was the worst ever for someone from a military standpoint. And it's good though when you see Hollywood actually take the time and the respect, I would say, because there's a lot of work that goes into looking that way and to training yourself to be that way and to hold yourself in a certain way. A level of leadership and respect that you're trying to portray while also being jokingly, assertive and things like that. So those are the kind of things we would do.
Okay.
You mentioned Roger.
What's that? Yeah. We're getting ready to hit that now. I think, I don't know if you've seen my Twitter, but
nope. I haven't seen anybody's Twitter.
Well, for a long time. Yeah, that's right. Duh. But
July 4th will be my 1 year anniversary of being 100% deplatformed.
I started Power Monkey Radio on July 4th, and we're coming up on a 1 year anniversary. So happy anniversary to you. And I will be sure to mention that when we broadcast on July 4th.
It was the day of our, God, I can't remember the name of we did a big rally in D.C. and Antifa showed up in the 1,000 or about 1,500.
Was it called the My Pussy Hurts rally or something like that?
No, it was
My Puss Hurts rally.
No,
I don't know.
It was a real professional thing because Milo spoke. Laura got up there and spoke.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was conservative. I apologize. I apologize.
They had another rally that they were trying to use to drown ours out. But Daryl Lamont Jenkins came over and had a conversation with us. He's one of the top Antifa guys. And I'll never forget that guy. He saw me and he goes, I'm walking by because I'm kind of like running security in a sense with a lot of the other guys and, making sure that we don't have any infiltrators. And he goes, there's that motherfucker right there, Joe Biggs. He goes, you're my number one enemy. And I was like, me? I was like, little me? I was like, oh, well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. And then the T-shirt I had on, it said death to communism or something like that. And he goes, I fucking hate that shirt.
Okay, man. Here we go. Roger Stone. You had mentioned being political and maybe doing some political work on the side, or I'm not really sure what happened. That was on Twitter right before they unpersoned you, I believe, but not getting into that. But I think the things that Roger has done politically, I did some work with these hardcore just patriot field organizers, and when we were in shitty territory and when shit was looking bad, and you saw the Obama stickers on the bumpers and everything like that, we had a saying, and it was WWRSD, and that stands for What Would Roger Stone Do? Yeah. And we would go knock that fucking door. And he other than Trump, I think maybe the left hates him more than anybody on the planet. And he's been silenced. You covered it, and I could hear the pain in your voice when you talked about it that day. But just talk about where Roger is now. What people can do. I mean, just to be heard, just so that I don't know why Patrick Moore said, it takes time, and that just wait on the Leo Zagami show when I was on there, but I don't know why we don't have that pardon. Trump is a hated man, and the deep state hates him. And every day he waits. I like 99.9% of the things he does. But as a big fuck you to these people, I would have pardoned Roger Stone before the shit went down. I mean, he has been silenced.
I'm hoping he does it when it gets to a point where they're like, all right, you got to go to jail. When it got pushed back, then he didn't say anything because I don't think he's not too worried about it. I'm hoping. I mean, this is just my opinion. They've known each other for a long time. There should be loyalty within friends, especially when your friends the one. especially when your friend's the one who over years, for years and years and years told you to do this, and then you did it and you actually got it, and helped you get to that point and helped mold you into being a good candidate that had a chance of winning, especially when you were the underdog that you were. I would hope that he would stand up and do something, but he's going to have an ear to what's going to happen before we hear about it. So I'm sure if it gets to a point where he's about to go in, he'll stand up and do something. I don't think he could do stuff for like Manafort, because Manafort was doing some fucked up shit. They should have never found out about it. They only found out about it because they were digging so much into everything that they came across this, and they just were looking for anything to get him.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's still wrong. You shouldn't go to jail for something, if they're, I don't know, man. It's just so messed up.
It was all a sham. It was all a sham to begin with, and he's going to jail for something that was a sham.
It's saddening, the guy. He's put in his whole life, doing this kind of stuff and helping. I mean, yeah, he's done some dirty shit, but you got to do dirty shit in a city full of dirt and shit.
I love that. I love Get Me Roger Stone. It's one of my favorite documentaries ever.
Yeah. It was fun filming that. It was fun doing that. They've got another thing they're filming. It was when we were there for the case. They were filming another part to that for his when we're in DC. But yeah, you could tell Roger was really just down, because it's like you've been fighting for your country. You've been trying to get the right people in place to do and make the right moves, and then just your association gets you, wrecks your life.
Oh my God.
So, it's just like any of us who've really put our neck out there for Trump, we've all kind of been thrown under the bus. So, I just, he keeps his head up. He's doing good. He was watching my live stream earlier on Instagram, which was kind of funny. I was doing a show with my buddy on his or whatever, and he brought me in on it, my buddy Outlaw Morgan. And he was watching, but I mean, he's a good guy. He's got a good heart and a good soul, and he loves his country, and he's trying to do what he just does the things that he thinks he needs to do to help keep that country on the right path, and in a world full of politicians that are so hell bent on turning this place into a commie shithole. This is one guy that's standing up and telling them to fuck off, and he literally says that to their faces, and that's what they hate. They hate that he doesn't know the line to bow down.
I think you were talking about, doing this for, posterity and so that, for history. But I think one of the greatest pieces written in this piece of American history, this American saga, is the article where he mentions that, he knows God is using him to expose certain truths. I have that pinned to the top of my Twitter. Excuse me. Not that you can see that. But I mean, I have that pinned to to the top of my Twitter, and I think it's one of the greatest pieces written in the American saga, because he I think at that point I had chills on my arms, and I can only imagine that the man had chills on the back of his neck, and just writing it, and I know that God is with him, but 3 last minutes, just one last thing, regarding the 3%, a lot of those people out there, they, and I know that it was closer to 30%. I'm just throwing that out there as the archetype, but can we still turn it around politically? If we knock doors, if we hop on the GOP's red dollar and only pledge to call campaigns for people who will sign a document or give their word. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there, but,
I'm still trying to figure out an answer.
Do you think we can change it politically? Because in 2016, I had to go to these people and say, hey, you're being censored. Your opponents aren't. So I don't know. How did they get in? How did they get in touch with you, Joe?
Well, let me answer to since what you're saying. People need to get mad. There's nothing wrong with being angry, because right now the left sees us as weak. Let's just be honest. We talk a lot and we bitch about being censored, but what do? We continue to use the websites, and we continue to promote the Twitters, and we continue to promote the Facebooks that hold us back, instead of saying, getting off Twitter and logging off and deleting it, getting off Facebook, logging off and deleting it, and going to places like Parler and things like that that actually uphold good American values and allow freedom of speech to exist. We need to take a stand, and if we really want to hurt the left, we need to vote with our dollars. We need to stop using their shit, and we need to be angry and go out and make statements. The left constantly will show up in droves, and they go out there and express themselves, and they call for people to shut down right-wing businesses because they hate everything that we stand for. Why can't the right do that? Why can't they stand up and see this as a war? Because the left surely hell sees this as a war, and they're the only ones out there willing to fight. We have people who make videos and we talk and we bitch, but we need to take it to the next level. And that doesn't mean being violent, but that means getting emotional.
It means being politically active. If it's ballot or bullet, man, what I'm saying. And this, I don't know if you can see it, and I don't know if you know the name, Richard Ojeda, darling of the Young Turks, with Chunk Yunker. No Jetta. We changed that. This man was destined for a seat, and here in West Virginia. And it just took a few guys. And what I'm saying is, if all the guys who go out and train, the 3% security forces of the world, the oath keepers of the world, if they will call their local, whoever they're behind. I mean, if they're Americans, they're going to support the right people, but call and say, I will make 500 calls for the president this term. I will make 5,000 calls, and hop on fucking Red Dollar and use your voice. If all you can do is a keyboard, use your damn phone. If all you can do is sit on your ass and talk about what you want to do, here's your chance. Lock and load and do it.
Well, people on the right though, we don't have anybody on the right that's putting up money. The left is constantly putting up money for other individuals. We need people that have the money.
Time.
Not everybody can go.
Do time.
No. Well, my point is not everybody can go, but what we can do is we can start to organize. Look at these. What do they call them? What does Obama call themselves? Alinsky. What were they called? The organizing. What was it called?
The community organizing.
Yeah, community organizing. We need to start doing stuff like that in a sense. We need to go, this person, let's say that Sally can't travel, but Sally has really good phone abilities. Well, all right, now Sally will delegate and make other people who are like Sally to go out and make phone calls. So people who can actually go to events will go to events. We need people to bring in money. We need to be able to fundraise. We need to be able to get organized and have an organized system, because the left is doing it. They're beating our butts in it.
Well, we have
too many people by themselves trying to do it, take on the country's problems one little group at a time. But we need to get together as a whole and try to come together and do something. I think collectively we could kick ass.
I just know some hardcore field organizers, and if I ever write a book, it's going to be called Blood Red Summer, and it's going to talk about 16 and just the things I saw, doing what I did there. But because it was craziness, and it really opened my eyes.
Like, if you live in Minnesota right now, and you're not in Minneapolis standing up for those businesses and going out there arming yourselves, you're sitting back and you're complicit. Like, people, like in this area, we got guys. I'm only sitting down here for like another month or two until my knee's at a point where I can actually like juke and jive a little bit. I need to be able to at least, I can't put myself into a situation where I'm just going to get kicked in the leg and I'm out and I'm going to get fucking trampled to death.
Yeah, I got you, man.
But, we've got guys right now that are going like, all right, what's happening in Orlando? What's happening in Tampa? What's happening in Miami? And they're going out there and taking time out of their day to do stuff. I mean, just a show of force. Even if you can only do one day, people need to do one day. It's like when the national, the recruiting stations were getting attacked, in Austin. What we do? We went out there with fucking armor and guns and sat outside and protected those guys. Amen. It's little things like that. And then you catch the media and it gives us really good optics. And that's another thing that right needs to work on, is getting good optics.
Resist the devil and he will flee from you. But You're right. You're absolutely right. Joe, I really appreciate you. How do people support you? Where do they find you? How can they help you the most achieve what you're out to do?
Well, I do a show on censored.tv. That's CENSORED.TV. That URL alone has been banned from all social media. So if you even type in censored.tv on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that, your post will not go up. Right. So you have to censored.
Get creative.
Then you got to put, hey, go check out the episode. It's censored. Then spell DOT space TV, to get things out. That's just how ridiculous it's getting. But you can go out there and watch us. The support is there. I do have a Parler account. The name is @JoeBiggs. So @JoeBiggs on Parler. You can find me there. And then I do have an Instagram. I'm somehow been able to keep up. This is like my 50th one I've made in a year, but it's stayed the longest. It's it's Anticom Biggs, ANTICOM BIGGS. That's Anti-Communist Biggs, Anticom Biggs. So, and I've got like 1,000 followers on here. I've kept it kind of low profile for a while, but it's been almost a year since the whole thing in Portland. So I've been able to stay out of the eyes for a while. So this has been able to last. But you can go there, and if you ever want to support, just shoot me a message, and we can talk about how you can help with anything like that. I mean, like I said, I'm very approachable and pretty easy to get along with, and easy to talk to. So if you're ever interested or have any information or anything like that, it always helps out. I'm getting my new press credentials in. They're supposed to be here the next day or so. I'm getting my new censored.tv mic flag in, and I'm getting everything ready for this summer because shit's about to heat up. If you think 2020 has been bad, it's only going to get worse, in my opinion. I'd say about 3 times worse.
Yeah, well, that magic number 21 is in Agenda 21, so let's see what we get. But man, I really appreciate you. Agenda
21. That's the one I was trying to remember. That's the small housing and all that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I was thinking maybe that's what you were talking. But last thing, real quick jingle, if you don't mind. If you do, I understand. But can I get you just? I got Leo to say it. Leo's got me to say it the other day. I'll put you on Powder Monkey Radio. If you'd say, "This is Joe Biggs. I want my Powder Monkey Radio."
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Joe Biggs, and I want my Powder Monkey Radio.
You are the fucking man, sir. Have a great day, man.
See you later.
I'll let you know when it's up.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
All right.
Later, man.
Bye.
Oh, is that you? Purple shrines on our head. Phenobarbital makes us dead. To heaven's gate we will go. To climb a
For God, for country, for truth, for justice, for the Republic. You're listening to the Powder Monkey Podcast on PirateInfoWars.com.
The comet's coming, it's getting near. Our conscience numbing, we have no fear. I called my friends up, and they're all here. For pudding and vodka, yeah. Was that you?